This is the Aratea, arguably one of the most beautiful and luxurious early picture books ever made. The Aratea is a spectacular series of manuscripts that combines thousands of years of ancient poetry with stunning illustrations. It's honestly hard to believe it was created more than 1,000 years ago. As a matter of fact, the Aratea is not a single book. The term refers to a group of illustrated medieval manuscripts based on poems. These manuscripts preserve ancient ideas about the stars, constellations, mythology, and the natural world. Historically, small, squarish manuscripts like this were sometimes called bat books because their pages could open wide, and some were designed to be carried in a way that allowed them to hang from a belt. This particular luxury manuscript was created around 820 CE in the Carolingian Empire, in what is now France, for members of the ruling family of Charlemagne. At the time, the empire was ruled by Emperor Louis I, also known as Louis the Pious. This is more than 100 years before the famous Golden Madonna of Essen. These books were entirely made by hand on animal parchment. Natural mineral and organic pigments were used to create vibrant colors, and real gold leaf was frequently applied to make the constellation stars shimmer on the page. The text itself goes all the way back to ancient times, combining Greek poetry with later Latin adaptations connected to astronomy and mythology. Aratus of Soli, who lived around 315 to 240 BCE, was an influential ancient Greek poet. His most famous work, the Phenomena, describes the constellations. Some manuscripts include a Latin version of a poem by the Roman general and writer Germanicus Caesar from the 1st century CE. In a way, this manuscript offers a glimpse into how ancient and medieval scholars viewed the universe. Some drawings were made entirely out of letters. These are called calligrams. Instead of using normal lines and shapes, the artist arranged Latin words to form figures of mythological constellations. This artist might deserve a nomination for Graphic Designer of the Year. Sadly, the illustrator of this particular manuscript is unknown. In fact, many historians estimate that over 90% of original medieval manuscripts have been permanently lost, and the vast majority of surviving manuscripts were produced by anonymous creators. Which brings us to an important question. How accurate is this book? As it turns out, not very. Surprisingly, scholars have found astronomical errors, unusual constellation shapes, and details that do not match the real movements of the stars. After all, Aratus was more of a poet, rather than an astronomer. In fact, many mythical beings are familiar to us, such as centaurs. But there are also some unusual ones, like this one. The purpose of the manuscript was probably not scientific accuracy. The constellations were designed to be beautiful and meaningful rather than perfectly mapped to the night sky. It was more likely a luxury object meant to entertain and impress the royal court. For instance, historians believe this particular luxury codex may have been commissioned for the Carolingian royal court, possibly connected to Emperor Louis the Pious or Empress Judith. Later illuminated copies were also created for wealthy and powerful patrons, including church officials. Another example, the magnificent 15th century Vatican Aratea was once owned by Cardinal Maffeo Barberini, who later became Pope Urban VIII. Today, original early medieval Aratea manuscripts from the 9th to 11th centuries are priceless cultural treasures preserved in major libraries and are not available for purchase. However, early printed editions, reproductions, or historically documented fragments can sometimes appear on the market, ranging from relatively affordable pieces to rare antiques worth thousands of dollars. In the end, the Aratea isn't just a book. It's about how people once imagined the world, through ink, poetry, and the hands of artisans working more than 1,000 years ago. This wasn't meant to be mass-produced but meant to be held by a very small number of people, and remembered for centuries. So, which would you rather fall asleep with at night? the Aratea, or a modern book? There's a fair in Vancouver that's been running for more than 100 years. Can you guess what it is? Find out the answer in the next episode. Subscribe to get notified.